What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So, yes, I didn't really want to talk about this just because it's always up in the air when it comes to Kyrie Irving and what he really wants to do, where he really wants to play, and who he wants to play with. So, he has the ability to not pick up his player option this year and become a free agent, or pretty much request a sign and trade or some type of trade to another team if he wants to, which I'm hoping he doesn't because there is a nice loophole that the Lakers can get around if he ends up doing, which is the way I would like him to get on the team instead of going through a trade and wasting a future draft pick or two, sending out a player that the Lakers don't really want to that's on their bench. So overall, we've been hearing a lot of stuff too, especially people close to the situation out there in Brooklyn saying that he is definitely trying to push his way to LA and the Lakers, which is okay with one thing, but like I said, he better go with a certain way that I had talked about, because according to Adrian Wojnarowski, the main news guy pretty much for ESPN about the NBA, said that if he does not pick up his option, which I believe ends up becoming official or not official at some point this week in the next couple of days, then he can sign with the Lakers for the MLE, which is the mid-level exception, which is the highest contract they could pretty much give out this year just because of how much money they're owing to people, for like $6 million, which is pretty nice because it's still a pretty good thing. You can still get a nice player. Obviously, to put a player like a Kyrie Irving on that contract is pretty ridiculous because you're definitely getting away with a lot right there because he's definitely worth a bigger contract. But you could do that, still end up trading Westbrook somewhere else, but that is if Westbrook still picks up his option or not. But why wouldn't you when you're probably going to be the highest paid player in the NBA at $47 million or north of that, and to get traded somewhere when you know Kyrie Irving is coming into the Lakers, you're going to get traded to someplace and they're still going to pay you either way. So I don't know. It's a pretty big decision because he can accept his decision or not, and that being Westbrook, and the Lakers get nothing out of it, or they can get another couple good solid wing players to play the 3 and 4 position, some shooters, some other type of messed up contracts they can get, but at least they'll have some depth. They won't get any picks back. They probably might have to send one future first, but that's still better than having to go the other route and Kyrie Irving being selfish and not taking the way easier route, because he even said too that it's not about money. So if it's not about money, then don't accept that player option and come to the Lakers for $6 million. We'll get into another player who's willing to be with the Lakers on a cheaper deal, but like I said, we'll get to it. Then USC hired their next GM slash assistant athletic director, or senior associate athletic director, whatever that means, in Dave Emmerich from Mississippi State. He's been one of the guys that's been around Mike Leach, who's the coach there, who's been a coach at Washington State, other places, for a long time. So he's always been around him, and apparently he's one of the top assistant GMs or associate guys out there. So luckily, after USC lost Brandon Sosna to the Detroit Lions, this isn't a bad pickup in their opinion. So hopefully it does end up working out for them as well. And then speaking of the player that would accept money, Malik Monk recently said that, yeah, he could probably get a contract that's worth $10 to $12 million out there on the market, especially this year. But he would be even willing to stay with the Lakers on a cheaper deal in order to still run it back again and try to win another championship, or try to at least win his first championship. So I'm definitely all for that. Yeah, he could be on a cheap 1-year deal, about $3 or $4 million, but then if things go well, or even if the Lakers still want to keep him after that year, they can still offer him the most money as well, because you won't be dealing with Westbrook's deal. You might have to deal with the Kyrie Irving thing, and then as of after this season, we don't know if LeBron James is going to sign for a longer deal, so he could be gone as well. So the money could go to Malik Monk anyways, but I was definitely very happy and excited that one of the few bright spots for the Lakers last year, especially in their young guys, is willing to come back on a cheaper deal when he could, like he said, get a bigger deal somewhere else. So that's pretty awesome. And then ex-Duke player Jack White, who was like a hybrid small forward, power forward type of player, he became a very good, consistent player at the end. He just couldn't ever really make it in the NBA, I guess. I think he was out there in Australia, where he's from. And after just a couple years, he apparently got an invite to play with the Denver Nuggets Summer League team. So that's pretty awesome gig for him this summer to be able to try to make the team. And doesn't make it there, then he could go to somewhere else because everybody will be watching those Summer League games around the NBA. So that's pretty cool. Then yes, the Lakers added way more players to their Summer League roster. A lot of guys I've known, some guys I didn't, but they are definitely looking at specific type of players, and that's definitely seems what they got. And it seems to be the final bit. There might be a couple more added, but overall, it's not a pretty bad roster they're sending over there to Vegas. They did get RJ Cole from UConn, who I did talk about when he was working out with the Lakers, someone I was interested in. They were able to pick him up at some point, so I'm glad they have him at least here, and he could probably go to the South Bay Lakers, their developmental league, so that's pretty cool. Then Fabian White Jr. from Houston. Apparently, his biggest stat in college is that he's the most winningest player in college history, which is pretty crazy, I think. But he is like a 6'8", 6'9" athletic guy who could pretty much help you down there and hopefully play some defense for you, become a 3-and-D type of player. So he's pretty intriguing. Then Vito Brown. He's been a guy who went to Wisconsin and played there, but he has been overseas the past couple of seasons. Played out there, was playing pretty well, I guess, so he got an invite for the Lakers to be on there. So I don't really know exactly the type of contracts these were, or were they just invites to play on the team, because some guys got Exhibition 10-day deals or some other type of stuff, or just invitations, so I don't really know what these guys really signed for him. Then Javante McCoy from Boston University is another guy who signed like an Exhibit 10, whatever type of deal that is. Didn't really know much about him. Looks like a type of scoring point guard type of deal, so not a bad look at right there. And then Nate Pierre-Louis, or Lewis, he apparently played with the South Bay Lakers pretty recently. I don't know if he's just been in the D-League past couple seasons or not, but he is known as one of the better defenders in the developmental league, so that's pretty, or I'm sorry, the G League, so used to calling it the D League. But yes, he's one of the better defenders, so hopefully it could be like they're pretty much comparing him to like a Gary Payton II. That's with Golden State right now, so we'll see how close he is to that. And then Paris Bass, another recent guy who recently played with like Golden State's G League and South Bay Lakers as well the past couple seasons. So just another quick invite, see what he can do. Another vein of that 3-and-D type of guy, or a little bit taller shooting guard, so we'll see. Then there was a nice stat that both USC and Duke are two of the three teams in the last 5 seasons that have at least one player drafted in the NBA draft, which is pretty cool, because obviously only 3 teams can say that, but that's pretty cool that both of my teams have been really good the past 5 seasons. Well, obviously Duke is always going to get a guy drafted because they always bring in a lot of talent, but that shows a lot about USC and what they've been brewing up the past couple seasons. It's been really fun to see, and hopefully we can continue it to go. It's been pretty awesome. And then John Wall, yes, he's another big time guy that supposedly the Lakers were always in talks to maybe trade for him for Russell Westbrook, but they never wanted to include like first round picks or anything like that. So overall, they're going to be able to maybe get a chance to get him because he is looking to have a buyout with the Houston Rockets. So he's going to work out, probably get a little bit half of his deal, maybe around half or whatever his contract is, which is around the same as Westbrook, $40+ million. But he's going to end up being able to choose where he wants to go. He is a Clutch Sports client, so that's obviously most of them are destined to go to the Lakers because they are half of the roster of the Lakers, I think, are Clutch clients. But overall, I'm hoping he does, even though he has been training in Miami to try to get NBA healthy pretty much, because he did not play pretty much all of last year, which is really crazy. But yeah, he just sat out, didn't want to get hurt, and still worked out and stuff, but never played, so that was pretty interesting. But I think he can be an intriguing player because he was at one point number one overall pick, great talent, so much speed, and then had some pretty tough, couple years of random injuries that happened to him. I think he broke something or tore something when he was at his house and he slipped on the stairs or something, and yeah, that was pretty crazy. And that was soon when he was coming back from being injured from something else. So that was all bad news, but I still think he has some talent left, and to be able to sign him to a veteran deal, whatever it is, for the Lakers, because that's pretty much all they can offer. It would be tough for him to get, but he's going to get a pretty nice payday from Houston either way. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing if he will be on the Lakers or not. Then, yes, the early 2000s Lakers, obviously, they were one of the few teams recently to three-peat as champions, but also apparently they are the only team to do that because Tampa Bay Lightning in the NHL had a chance this Stanley Cup Finals to three-peat themselves. They've been champions the last 2 seasons, but they fell short to Colorado yesterday. So as of this millennia, or since the 2000s, I think that Lakers squad or those Lakers teams were the last teams to three-peat. So they had that little title that they can celebrate as being the only team as of late to do it. So that's pretty cool for them. Then 2 guys that I think are going to be pretty much available, whether it comes to trades or in the buyout market, that I think will fill the Lakers roster very well when it comes to the bench players. And that obviously is an ex-Duke player in Cam Reddish, who they almost had a trade for before the All-Star break, but for some reason it didn't go through, which sucked. But he is a guy you might have to trade for, but to give up a later second-round draft pick. And the Knicks are trying not to take back any players anyway, so they can sign Jalen Brunson from Dallas. So a later future second-round draft pick for him will be pretty easy. And you have a guy who is a very good shooter from three-point, and as long as he's coming off the bench and doesn't have too much pressure on him to start like how he was drafted in the first round, I think he will be very productive for you off the bench. Could be a 9 to 12 point scorer in the league, in my opinion. And then JaMychal Green, who is a guy I've really liked because he's always played well against the Lakers, which hasn't been good for the Lakers. But when you know a guy, when you know your enemy, it's better to have him on your team than having to play against him. And yes, he is a very solid off the bench power forward / center for you, which the Lakers could always use. He is a little bit undersized, but still is able to get rebounds and can shoot the three as well, can score down low for you as well. And that guy, he's most likely going to be bought out by the Thunder because he's a little bit too much of a veteran for them. They want a bunch more younger guys, so he'll be bought out to go anywhere he wants, and hopefully will be in LA with the Lakers and not with the Clippers as he was a few seasons back. Then a pretty interesting story came around Twitter that Spider-Man is trending right now because apparently he's going to be turned into a dinosaur, or somehow a dinosaur has Spider-Man abilities. It looked like a Tyrannosaurus Rex in that picture, which is pretty crazy. I didn't really get to read much about it, but if he does end up becoming a dinosaur in a Spider-Man suit or vice versa, whatever, that'll be pretty awesome. It might make Spider-Man my favorite superhero, but you never know. It has to be executed pretty well and see how it does, but it could be very interesting to see a dinosaur as a superhero. Should be pretty fun. I know Thor has had some type of otherworldly animal lookalikes like Beta Ray Bill or something like that take over, so we'll see. It's very, very intriguing. So yes, thanks for watching, people. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a good rest of your day. Bye. Fight on.